We would like to introduce Louise Usher, who will be joining us. She is a native of Kent, and she has two twins and an adoring snoring Shih Tzu. She has traveled widely while drawing inspiration from the sandy shores, and she films these trips for YouTube. She has a creative writing MA, and she realized her dream of writing about life. Her current work in progress is her own painful autoethnography on IVF and subsequent single-parent heartbreak. Following a bestseller status of COVID-19, How It Made Us Feel, Louise is authoring a PhD on the same subject, with hermeneutic phenomenology as the methodology, as well as editing book 2, Deja Vu, From Behind the Mask, which is to be published in 2022.
So basically, you covered quite a lot of what I'm going to talk about here as well. But good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. So actually, I'm from the health sciences area, but I've got quite a... You want me to stay here? Okay.
It does depend on the camera, yeah.
Okay. Hi everyone online as well. Yeah, I'm going to take a slightly different approach, following on from Melissa's talk there, because there was quite a lot of ethical stuff, and I feel quite passionately about this, although it's not really related to my research as such, because I'm not talking about myself within that, but I am looking at inflammatory bowel disease, which is something that I have, which is considered a disability. And after, Melissa talking as brilliantly as she did about some of the challenges, I think that as people with disabilities, or some label that makes us misfits, which, as Carl's rightly said, that's pretty much all of us, we seem to have this level of defense about us. I think whether that's that you've got a visible disability, or this whole invisible disability thing is really becoming quite popular now. People saying, we're having to defend ourselves. And even recently, a colleague said to me, you scrub up all right, don't you? Because she saw me on a bad day and then she's seen me on a good day. And I felt, oh, crikey, do I not look disabled enough? So I just really wanted to touch on that point a little bit after what Melissa has said. But let's get back on with my story. So yes, I'm doing my PhD in health sciences. I'm a little bit late to the party. But from a very young age, it was my passion to, literally from when I could pick up a pen, I wanted to write stories, and I was interested in things to do with life and real life. And as time's gone on, I've realised that what I really love to look at and go to the cinema is anything to do with real life stories, and which I now know is called phenomenology, which is the lived experience, which when this title came up today for the symposium, I was like, yeah, I've got to be part of that. And I think my supervisor, who is an expert in hermeneutic phenomenology, I think she'd have my guts for gophers, as my mother would say, if I wasn't part of this today. So thank you very much for having me. And as you can see from my title here, the benefits of lockdown on a disabled writer. So lockdown is that famous word that we all now know so well, and we perhaps didn't know that so well a couple of years ago. And I got the impression that from a lot of people, there's a lot of different experiences of phenomenology that's gone into what your experience of lockdown was. And for myself, it was a benefit to my writing career, because while everybody else was putting online, I'm bored, I'm cleaning out the kitchen cupboards, I thought, I'm going to get on that computer, because I just finished my MA in creative writing, and I thought, I've got an undergraduate in health, I've got an MA in creative writing, which confused the hell out of everybody. But because inside me was this passion for this writing, and it's never, ever gone away. I'm 52 years old now, and it's still there. It's not here. I'm still like, right, this is where I want to be with my writing, and I'm not there yet. But I will get there as long as I'm breathing. So it was always sort of my passion, and I was like, right, I've got all these health stories. People have lived this experience, and I want to write that in a way that anybody can pick up that book and think, what a brilliant story, I'm really inspired by that. But all of my cohort from the human nutrition BSc, they was like, why the hell are you going off to do an MA in creative writing? I was like, well, it's non-fiction. And they're like, oh, fact, fiction, I don't know, couldn't get their head around that. So part of me belongs very much in health sciences, and part of me belongs a little bit in class, I think. So what is a life writer? This is how I label myself online, because I spent a lot of time thinking, like, what exactly is that? that I want to label myself. That's when someone says, what do you do? I'm like, oh, crikey. So I write about the lived experience, i.e. phenomenology, because I'm interested in people and the ups and downs of life, which I think is part of our natural human experience. But if we don't do something with that, then what's the point, you know? So as Melissa said in my introduction, my current real passion project is about my lived experience of going through IVF, successfully having twins. One of them is sitting in the audience. Thanks for supporting me today. And there was a single parenthood that happened as a complete shock through that. So I'm quite passionate about writing that story. But I think without having, like, as that child that wanted to write, suddenly now I've had bad stuff happen. So surely that's going to make me a better writer and give those, you know, stories to other people to think, well, she could do it, so why can't I? So of course, as a life writer, you can write about facts. So I could say, as a human nutritionist, I could say, right, you eat this and your body does that. Or I could say, we got up in the morning, the sun was shining, and make it a bit more creative. And that's the bit that I really like to do, which of course has to be slightly separate from my PhD now. And this is the thing that I love about writing, and has been part of my passion, is that you can pick up that laptop or pen and paper and you can do it anywhere. So again, as Melissa found on probably on my blog, I think, is that I love to travel and again, sit there and people watch and talk about the food that's available, how that can help somebody that's got inflammatory bowel disease, and it's starting to finally all come together. So it sort of fits into one thing rather than she's a writer, but she's also a scientist and she likes talking about life. So now why don't we talk about that, as in what's the experience of somebody with inflammatory bowel disease who likes to go travel? You know, do they have to adjust the things? So that's my direction. So of course, like all of us, life is a balancing act. This is me right at the beginning of the pandemic, in the A&E, where they weren't even testing us then for things, but apparently I had double pneumonia, so I wasn't, I don't know, probably COVID. But I have Ankylosing Spondylitis. Does anybody know what that is? No. So it's an inflammatory arthritis condition that they're not really sure what's caused by, but it's progressive and you can end up completely debilitated, bent in half, with your spine is fused as one joint, so you don't have joints within that. It is progressing. It is in my hands now, and it seems to be it's in my feet and various other joints. But it's something that, you know, we're fighting with all we've got and still trying to live my best life despite that. And Crohn's disease, which comes under the umbrella of inflammatory bowel disease, which a few of you are nodding, you've probably heard of that. There's also ulcerative colitis, which is very closely linked. And that's the area that I'm researching for my PhD. And I am little d deaf as well. So sometimes I can hear really well. Today is one of those days, thankfully. Other days I can't hear anything whatsoever. And it is intermittent, and it's all to do with this whole systemic thing that I've got going on, which was stemmed from, that was my passion for the human nutrition degree, really. So going back to really where we started, disabilities does mean it can, you know, to clock in and clock out as a regular thing, especially when you've got something that's intermittent, like Crohn's disease. You know, you'll have a day where you can't leave the house, you'll have another day where you're not feeling too bad. But with writing, you can pick up that whatever you write with, and you can do it whenever, wherever. If you're having a bad day, you put it down. Another day, you can carry on. And that's what I really love about it. And I feel quite passionately about people who've got health challenges or other life challenges who think, oh, I give up, there's nothing I can do. I think that there is, and sometimes if you dig deep, you can find what that thing is. So it says here, full-time writing equals the dream. That's absolutely the dream for me. And I guess when you're writing a PhD, that's sort of what you're doing, isn't it? It's very full-time. But obviously I've got so many books, I've got 15 on my list that I want to produce. So March 2020, just after I was in the hospital, obviously we all know what happened. And I just graduated with my MA in creative non-fiction. Loved that degree. It was absolutely awesome. And I went down the route with that. And my thesis was writing about the IVF story. But then when COVID hit, as I said, I was like, right, what do I do now? I'm going to sit there and I'm going to write this story. So this is the cover of my book. It's called COVID-19, it's called COVID-19, How It Made Us Feel. It went straight in at number 17 on Amazon. but it was a bit of a challenge to get it published because it was so fresh. I literally put the word out to some of my friends and I was like, does anybody want to write on how they're feeling? And I had 15 authors from all over the world came together and we put together this book and I edited it within my best editing skills and got it out by the middle of May 2020. And at the time, Amazon was saying, we're not going to let anybody have a voice on COVID. We don't know where we're at with it. We're going to shut everything down. And there was an amazing conversation between Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos on Twitter, which said, we're not going to do it. And then Elon was like, come on, don't be so silly. You can't shut these people up. And my phone was like a hotcake because all of my friends knew that I was trying to get this book published. And I was like, is Elon talking about you? And I'm like, well, yeah, of course no. And I was like, not me specifically, but us, you know, as a collective, those of us who want to talk about things. And I wasn't saying, oh, COVID is this or COVID is that. I was just like, this is how we're feeling right now. And it was a really powerful book and it's got some great reviews. I was really pleased to say. So I thought, well, time's gone on, things have changed, we feel a little bit different. So book 2 is, yeah, it's ready to be published. It's in the final editing stages and it's just a case of getting the time together to do that. But I feel as though having the digital tools that we've got now was brilliant in lockdown because you think how isolated we all would have been. And I think you can also take that into everyday life. There's certainly if you're somebody that has got something which means you can't leave home so easily or it needs a lot of consideration, I think the digital world is definitely a blessing. And obviously for me with my disabilities, it worked really well. So what now? Well, I've told you most of this. So future me is a full-time writer, which does actually help me be accepting of my disabilities. And I think looking at it is a little bit more of a positive than, you know, God, this is the end of the world. How on earth is my life going to look reasonable, positive? What am I contributing? And I think that all the while I can, and even while we've got all of these amazing, you know, speech to text things, even if the hands aren't working, I can use that and I can still continue to get these stories out there. So, you know, I would urge anybody that's in a similar situation with me, and I will be talking to a lot of people with inflammatory bowel disease, if that's a bit of an issue for them, maybe try and turn to the laptop and think what's your passion that you can do from that. Because for me, it's absolutely the thing that I think is going to keep me going and keep me contributing and telling some stories and hopefully having an impact on some other people's lives. So yeah, keep your fingers crossed for me. Let's hope that it's all going to work out nicely. And good luck to any of you writers. You know, no, you're a writer. Yeah. A lot of people are like that. I want to dabble, just go for it. And the thing is, with the self-publishing world now, it's absolutely such a tool that you can tap into. So yeah, so good luck to all of you as well. Thank you for listening, and I'm happy to answer any questions if any of you have them. Thank you. Questions? Oh.
Do you have any questions online as well?